All right, this is episode 1 of the Islands podcast. Welcome. My name is Darin Tingey. I'll be the host of this podcast where primarily I'll be interviewing others. It won't be just myself, but for the first one, I'll give you a quick intro on myself and what this podcast is about. This is a passion project for me. So I grew up in Arizona, and after high school, I went on a 2-year service mission for my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I served in the Marshall Islands Majuro mission, which later changed to the Marshall Islands Kiribati mission. So the Marshall Islands and Kiribati are two tiny island countries in the middle of the Pacific. And it was 2 years of the best time of my life. And I'm passionate about the islands. I want to talk about them all the time. So this is a fun passion project for me where I get to sit down with people like myself who served in that mission, served in Kiribati, served in the Marshall Islands. I'll probably eventually expand it to include all of the island missions, whether that's Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, Tuvalu, Vanuatu, Micronesia, you name it. We're gonna probably add it in. But for now, we'll start off with people who served their missions with myself, as well as those that came after me who have recently been returned from the Marshall Islands and Kiribati, and those who served 20, 30 years ago. It should be fun, and I'm excited. To give a quick background on my mission, I graduated in 2016 from high school, and the day I graduated is the day I got my mission call. And when I opened it, I really wanted to go Spanish speaking, so I read it and it said the Marshall Islands Majuro mission, but I said Majuro because I really wanted to go Spanish speaking. Uh, Ended up leaving in September, going to the MTC where my intake overlapped with the intake ahead of me. And there was about 12 in the intake above me and 12 or 13 in my intake. So a lot of missionaries. We were all going to the Marshall Islands side of the mission. There was another intake going to Kiribati as well. So my mission consisted of 3 countries: the Marshall Islands, Kiribati or the Gilbert Islands, and Nauru. 3 countries, 3 different cultures, 3 different languages. There are no missionaries currently in Nauru. It's not legal. And then when I was in the mission, there was about roughly 30 missionaries in the Marshall Islands, and in Kiribati there was anywhere from 80 to 100. So, quick background: Marshall Islands has probably influenced your life more than you know it. If you ever watched SpongeBob, Bikini Bottom comes from Bikini Atoll, which is in the Marshall Islands, where the U.S. tested atomic and hydrogen bombs. So you've probably seen the pictures of the mushroom cloud on the island of the atomic bomb, and that's the Marshall Islands. And Kiribati is just south of it. Very similar. They're both countries that have islands, atolls. So that means not necessarily one specific island, but a chain of coral islands that surrounded volcanoes thousands of years ago. So they're tiny islands about 6 feet above sea level. You can see the ocean on both sides, and just incredible. You can't even see it on a map when you look in the Pacific. But both of them have amazing people and culture. In the Marshall Islands, there's probably about 30,000 people or less now. There might have been more when I was there in 2016 through 2018, but a lot of them live in the States now because the U.S. bombed a lot of their country. They let them come to the States. In Kiribati, there's a lot more. I can't remember the exact number, but I want to say around 80 to 100,000 people. So their outer islands are a lot more populated. They just have more people. So they have more missionaries there. Recently, there's a temple announced for Kiribati. The work there was booming. In my mission, for me specifically, I was called Marshallese speaking, so I was going to the Marshall Islands. So I ended up going to the Marshall Islands, starting my mission there, and then 6 months into my mission, I was transferred to Kiribati, and then spent some time in Kiribati for a while, and then got transferred back to the Marshall Islands. So the fun part about this podcast is I experienced both sides of the mission, both countries, both languages, both cultures. And so we're going to talk to people who served in the Marshall Islands. We're going to talk to people who served in Kiribati. We're going to talk to people who are like myself, who got to serve in both. And we'll kind of get to see what island life was like on all the different outer islands. In the Marshall Islands, we had, I think that at most, we had 7 outer islands open. And 2 main islands, Majuro, which is the capital, and then Ebeye, which is in Kwajalein Atoll, next to the U.S. Army base. There's a lot of people there. And then the outer islands that we had missionaries on were Arno, Mille, Ebon, Jalawich, Lai, and I think Level Up. Before my time, there had been Wigai and some others. And then in Kiribati, I think they had every single one of the outer islands open except for the Mena and Arode at one point in my mission. Even Bana Bay had missionaries on it, which was one for the books. Hopefully we'll get some of those missionaries on here to talk about what that was like, because that's a once in a lifetime experience and not many people got to do that one. As far as areas I served, I started in Ebeye. I was in Yallop, so the Ebeye 3rd Ward, and then I went to South, the Rook, which is Ebeye 1st Ward, I believe. So I was on Ebeye for a total of 3 transfers, and then I got transferred to Majuro, which is the main island in the Marshall Islands, and I was in Ajeltake for 1 transfer. That's the countryside of the Marshall Islands, the skinniest, tiniest part of Majuro, where you can throw a rock from the ocean side to lagoon side to ocean side. And then from there, I was transferred to Kiribati along with 5 other elders. Basically what happened there was President was saying, hey, I have a lot of work in Kiribati and I'm losing 20 missionaries this summer. So I want to send 6 of you over to help out. And all of us were pretty shocked. We were stoked to go, but it was basically restarting our mission. Whole new language, whole new culture, brand new missionaries that most of us didn't know any of them besides the ones that we were in the MTC with, which was fun to see them later. And we got the news. The president was like, I'm sending you over as fast as we can get your visas. And we said goodbye to all the missionaries in the Marshall Islands because we didn't know if we would ever see them again. I kind of had a hope that this would happen to me because both of my MTC teachers, Brother Sherman and Tonini, both served in the Marshall Islands and Kiribati. The Tonini served in both, and Sherman was AP, and he got to travel to both. He didn't officially serve in Kiribati at all, but he traveled to both. So I had seen this, and I kind of hoped that this would happen to me. I thought it'd be a crazy, cool experience to get to be in both sides of the mission in both countries and learn a lot. And it was an incredible experience. When we got to Kiribati, we all got told we were being sent to outer islands. I got sent to Maiana, which is the outer island just south of Tarawa. The flight was 10 minutes. It was so fast. But little dinky plane out to Maiana, and it was such an amazing island, pretty large for Kiribati, super long island, and I was on there for a little over 4 months. 2 different companions there. One Elder Tui was my trainer, which was kind of funny to have another trainer mid in the mission, and then Elder Otto, who was actually in MTC with me. So fun in Maiana. Hopefully I'll get to talk about it with some other missionaries that served there, but we did church in 4 different villages. They live a very traditional life. I lived in the stick hut. lots of bugs, mosquitoes. It was amazing, to say the least. And then from there, I actually get transferred back to the Marshall Islands. I go back to Tarawa for a few days. President says, "Hey, some stuff happened at the Marshall Islands. We need you back in the Marshall Islands. Um, but you're going to go start a Kiribati branch in the Marshall Islands." Because there's a lot of Kiribati people that go work in the Marshall Islands because the pay is a little bit better and there's a pretty large community. So I was very sad to leave Kiribati at the time, but very excited to go back to the Marshall Islands to continue working with the Marshallese people and also with the Gilbertese, the Kiribati people. And I was transferred to Majuro in Long Island because that was kind of the center of Majuro, and President wanted to do the Kiribati branch there. So the fun part about being there and doing the Kiribati branch is I got to work anywhere in Majuro, anywhere that there was Kiribati people, I got to go. So I did that for 4.5 months. We started a Kiribati branch, and it was so fun. I was very exhausting because I had to go back and speak Marshallese again and continue learning Kiribati and try to learn both languages, continue to learn both languages at the same time. But it was amazing to do the Kiribati branch, and it continued on even after I left the area and after I left the mission. It continued on until basically COVID shut it down. But it was amazing to meet every Kiribati person in the Marshall Islands. That was a really cool experience. And then from there, I was kind of like, President, I'm going a little crazy speaking Kiribati and Marshallese every day. I would like to either go back to Kiribati or go to an outer island in the Marshall Islands. I really love the outer island life, and I really would love to. And sometimes you got to beg President to go where you want to go, but he sent me to Lai, which ended up being the best island I have ever been on. And to give you some perspective, Lai is a very, very tiny atoll with fewer than 300 people on it. And they're the happiest people on earth. And of that roughly 300 people, about 100 of them are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have an official congregation award out there, and a lot of those have gone to the temple, which is absurd. We reopened the island. The island has had missionaries forever because they've had so much success there, and its proximity to Ebeye facilitates a lot of that success because all those kids on Lai go to school on Ebeye. So we reopened the island, me and myself and Elder Scott, who was just the intake above me. And we spent Christmas out there. We flew out there 2 days before Christmas, spent Christmas out there. And I think I spent a total of 4.5 months. Elder Scott ended up spending 6 months out there. But just an amazing outer island. The plane came maybe twice a month, food boat once every 3 months. We were getting fish, rice, octopus, crab. I mean, all these stuff I had on in Kiribati as well. But Lai was something special because of the people there. And because it was so small, we talked to everyone basically 3 times a day. But we had a lot of success in Lai. And hopefully I'll talk to some other missionaries who also serve there, and we can tell stories, reminisce. I'm hoping not to share the same story in every podcast so it doesn't get boring. But after Lai, I went back to Majuro, where I went to Uliga and did my last 2 transfers in Uliga. One training Elder Tune, who was from Kiribati, and that was really fun because then I got to continue speaking Kiribati to him and teach him Marshallese. So I got to speak Kiribati and teach him Marshallese. And then I died I sent him off to an outer island after he was with me, and then Elder Kendrick, who was in my intake, finished the mission with me. We both died in Uliga, and it was amazing. Uliga's on the city side of Majuro, so as far as my serving in Majuro, I had Ajeltake on the countryside. I had Long Island, which is kind of the middle of countryside and city, and then Uliga, which is very much city. And when I say city, do not think of a city. Just think of not necessarily a ton of palm coconut trees. It's more businesses, houses on top of each other, lots of people. Countryside feels more islandy, more island vibe. So we're going to talk about Marshallese culture, Kiribati culture, food, crazy mission stories. Hopefully, talk about every single outer island that we've had a missionary on, what their experience was, what their house was like, funny stories, conversion stories, everything, you name it. I hope that those that served in the mission will listen to the podcast and just reminisce about the mission and want to come on and talk about it and then their experience. And two, for kids that are getting called to the Marshall Islands Kiribati mission, there wasn't a lot on the line for me to learn about the mission. Looking back, I knew nothing about the Marshall Islands. I knew nothing about Kiribati. I knew kind of where they were and that they spoke Marshallese and Kiribati, but I didn't know anything about them. Didn't know anything about the culture, the history of their countries. And so hopefully this can help those missionaries prepare better to serve those people and to already start building the love of the culture and the language and the people. And also probably for those moms out there who are also doing their research on their son or daughter's new mission call. Hopefully they can learn something from this podcast and learn what life's going to be like as a missionary out there, because it's very different. It's very different than any other mission. A lot of times you're on an outer island that, for me, we didn't have internet access on some of them, so I was writing letters. I think a lot of that's changed now that there's Starlink and missionaries have phones and whatnot, but there still are some remote parts of the islands and still places that you're not going to be starving ever, but that you're eating fish and rice every day. And you want to know what to bring. You're going to be wearing flip-flops. The mission is just going to be different than anything else you experience, and it's going to be the best 2 years of your life. So hopefully you guys like the podcast. Please let me know if you want to come on, if you've been in that mission, or what you do and don't like about the podcast, what you want us to talk about. I'm excited. Again, it's a passion project for me. I'm on paternity leave after having my first son, so I've got some time to do this. I love the Marshall Islands and Kiribati. I went back in August to the Marshall Islands. I did not get the chance to go back to Kiribati. It's too hard to do it all in one. I need a whole month to do that, but incredible. I hope to go back to Kiribati soon. And I love the islands. I love the Pacific. And again, we won't just do Marshall Islands, Kiribati only, but that's where we'll start. And then we'll get into other Pacific missions out there because the Pacific's very similar in a lot of ways. So thank you again. This is the Islands Podcast, and look forward to bringing on some great guests.